Hello. Yeah. All right, as we're logging in, I put a question in the chat, which is the question we had on week 1. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. The first one on mindset overall, on creating your reality, and the third one on outside the box solutions. I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes of nature.
Not everyone is going to see that chat unless when they log in, they don't see it. Do you get what I'm saying? So why don't you just, if you want to just stay there maybe and just tell people when they come in? Up to you. Or I can just copy paste it when people come in if you're just up there.
Yeah, can you let them know when they come in? Please.
You guys can sit closer, I mean, if you want to, or if you want, whatever you guys want.
Now you're the host.
Yeah, what do you need?
I think can you put that my screen be the one that's showing?
Spotlight video?
Yeah.
I'll make you the host too, or do you have things you're gonna share today?
Yeah.
Do you have a bathroom on? Sorry.
Hello. All right. For anybody that just got here, put a question on the chat box, which was the same one from the first week. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. Mindset overall, creating your reality, and outside the box solutions. Good. All right. Now, I'd like to open up for anybody that has a question specifically to last week's mindset and or a takeaway. So it could be and we'll keep it short, 30 seconds each for anybody that like to share and or has a question. I'm gonna put you in gallery and feel free to unmute yourself. And if you'd like to record, feel free to do so. Of course, we'll post it as usual. And if you'd like to have a copy instantly, feel free to record.
I'll share.
Yes.
The biggest takeaway from last week was about blissizing. And also, I'll do two within my 30 seconds. Just also like just the flow state, how it's fun, it's easy, and yet so productive, which is, I think a lot of us think it's like ironic because just like, what? Like your flow, how are you like productive in flow state? But the more flow and ease you're in, the more productive you're in. So, yeah.
Yay.
Thank you.
Sharon. Yes. Who'd like to go on?
I can go.
Yes.
So I guess overall my takeaway was like, I have to do with finding your flow state. So actually, even on Saturday, I'll try and quickly summarize, but I had been invited to some party and I didn't go. And I was like, I just want to like hang out on my own, do my own thing. And I've always had this thing where, because I go to a lot of festivals, that's my thing. Like I love to travel around the world to different like festivals. So say like Envision or like Burning Man, whatever. And I find whenever I'm somewhere like that, or even just traveling in general, I always find this state of flow in which like good things happen because I'm not worried about the past or the future. I'm just very present. So my thing all along is like, how do I find that state of flow, but when I'm back home? So Saturday, I decided to go out for a bike ride. And I was like, I'm just going to see where the night takes me. Say I left at 8:30 p.m. And I was like, I'll go for an hour. So I got home 6 hours later because I first biked out like about an hour. There's this beach in Toronto called Cherry Beach. And I heard some music. So I go bike into the bushes. It's kind of dark, but I'm like, let's see what's going on. And then I see all these people dancing. And I was like, hey guys, like what's going on here? And they're like, oh, we're just having a little, like our little party. Like you can stay if you want. I was like, honestly, like this looks super fun. Like love the music, but I'm going to continue. So I continued biking kind of back the way. And then I hear deadmau5 playing, which I don't know if you know the DJ deadmau5, but I hear deadmau5 and I'm like, what? Like this brings me back to like 10 years ago. Like I always loved deadmau5. So like I bike over and there's this area in Toronto. It's kind of industrial, but I guess there was a deadmau5 show and he was playing to like people parked in cars. But like I just biked over. I got a free show. So I was just like sitting there listening and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And I was talking to the guy beside me. And he was like, oh, if you're biking around tonight, you should check out the west side of the lakeshore because it's closed off to the cars right now. So I'm like, okay, I'll do that. So I bike off to like the west side of the lakeshore in Toronto. And I see all these people biking with like neon lights and stuff on their bikes. And so I was like, oh man, like I want to know what they're doing. Like, but then they were kind of biking quickly. But then I caught up with a couple of stragglers. And I was like, hey guys, like what is this? And they're like, oh, like we're doing this like this like a bike ride with like music and stuff. Do you want to join us? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like that actually sounds really fun. I'm just by myself right now. So I joined them. We ended up at this park in Toronto called Trinity Bellwoods. And they were like, okay, now we're going to do a meditation. And it was like so wild. Like we're all like sitting, like we all have our bikes there. They're all, oh, and they gave me like neon bracelets. and we're all sitting there. We do this like cool meditation, which was actually really, really lovely. And like I cried, but in a good way. And then after I was like, so like, who are you guys? They're like, oh, we have this festival in Jamaica. It's called Tomorrow Today. So I met like the founders of this festival. It's like a wellness music festival, I guess. And it was so crazy because I this woman I know, Alex Joe, she actually lives in Costa Rica now in Nosara. She works with them, so she does like, because their festival couldn't happen because of COVID, they've been doing a lot of stuff online. So I'd actually like seen a post that she had made once. But yeah, so I met the founders, and I've had this whole thing about moving to Costa Rica, and I was talking to the founders, and I bring up Costa Rica, and they're like, oh my gosh, we just sold our home. We're moving to Costa Rica for the winter. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, they're like, we want to start a community. We're meeting with Stephen Brooks from Envision Festival. He's going to teach us how to do it. I was like, what? Like, this is so cool. So like I got, like, now I'm joined in on their like little list, and I made some friends. We're going to bike together again. But yeah, I was like, this is like type of thing that happens to me whenever like, okay, say if I'm like off at a festival somewhere and I just like follow my intuition, and like, it's so cool that I had that experience. And I don't know. So like things like that kind of happened even like on Sunday. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, and so this is, okay, really, really quick. I'm so sorry. My friend Marisa, I met her at Envision. She has this, she works for this company called Lucid News Psychedelics. And we had spoken about me helping her out with some of her work. And yesterday we finally had our phone call, and she did an ayahuasca ceremony last week, and now she knows what direction she's taking her work in. I'm going to help her. Sorry?
What's her name?
Like I'm pretty.
And I brought up this class, and she was guys 2 days.
She's sorry. She sat with us.
I know her.
Yeah. So this was this crazy conversation. I was like, Marisa, like, I'm doing this amazing like course right now. Like, and I was like, have you ever heard of a guy named like Orpheus? She's like, Bianca, I was just with him.
Oh my God.
So, I don't know. So it's just like all these like crazy things keep happening. And then I went for a bike ride again last night, ended up meeting this guy randomly who like, we just started talking about like life and like whatever, the universe and what's going on for 3 hours. And like, I hadn't meant to go on like a 4-hour bike ride again, but I did because I just met some stranger. So yeah, anyways, that's where I am. And I'm really grateful for this course.
Beautiful. So Marissa, I met her a couple of weeks ago, and I told her about Orpheus, and she shared with me that she was a documentarian, and she was making films about plant medicine, etc. And she had sat on 50 ayahuasca ceremonies. And I told her, well, you have to go sit with Orpheus and then give me the feedback. Tell me what you think. And she said this was the best sitting she had ever had, because I just saw her Saturday, this Saturday, and she had sat with him last week. So she gave me the report. This was the best sitting that she has ever had, which was magical to hear. And yeah, so I met her a couple weeks ago and just saw her this Saturday.
Yeah,
what
no,
a cool girl.
She told me, she's like, I just had a ceremony that has changed my life. So I thought that was super special. And I think it's really cool. So really happy I did this. So thank you guys so much.
And thank you for sharing. And I mean, since there's right now only a couple of us, if anybody else wants to add to their thing, I know I gave Bianca a lot of time, so nobody feels like, well, how come you only gave me 30 seconds? Yes, Leanne, go.
Yes. Okay. So where do I start? I think I have this like really, really, really strong knowing that something is going to happen for my acting career, like a big job there. And like within like 2 months, I just like, I feel it in my body. I'm having dreams about it and everything, which is cool. Well, I'm just trying to be present and not like think too much, just be present with the flow. But what I've noticed with like my acting, with even in the past 2 weeks is I am so literally deep in the character. I'm not myself anymore. It's really, really cool. And like, I am so like much more emotionally like rich and just bringing so much to the characters. It's like beautiful. And yeah, so I just had a lot of like, I just feel better. And I feel like I'm really starting to like embrace who I am and like really like my true self and like my true style and everything. So I'm just feeling a lot more, I guess the flow is just like I'm learning to go with it and not beat myself up about like not doing things at a certain time, which makes me better. Like when I'm actually doing stuff, because it's like we don't have to work as hard as we think. That's just like society's telling you. So yeah, those have been my breakthroughs this week.
All right. Anybody else like to add a question and or breakthrough takeaway? All right. While you're thinking, in case something pops up, I have another question. This one you're going to answer in the chat. Any word swap that you have adopted into your life. So a word that you caught yourself now shifting it to another word for infinite possibilities. Add it to the chat, please. And Lou, if you'd like to ask a question and or a takeaway or a breakthrough from last week's, specifically this class, mindset class, feel free to let me know. All right, while you're doing that, I'll give you one more thing to add to the chat. Something about your impossible project. And later on, you could expand on that if you like on the WhatsApp, but I would love to see like one little thing on the chat in regard to your I am possible project. Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yes. So some of the ones I'm getting, suffering from acne shift to experiencing acne, suffering from acne into experiencing acne. Ooh, and embodying I am wealthy, I am abundant. I have to do this. Tell me about that, Bianca. Is that an answer to one of those or was that another one? I have to do this.
Sorry, I accidentally hit them at the different time, but it's supposed to be I have to do this to get to.
Cool. I don't have enough time. Everything is flowing the way it should be. Woo, time is limitless. Wow. Oh, I see it. I have to do this too. I get to do this. Got it. All right, internet is going crazy. That's cool. I'm sure it's gonna flow. I'm so busy. I have so many awesome opportunities to work on. Oh, I love that. From I am so busy to have so many awesome opportunities to work on. Good job. Road action plan. Realize I have to fully embody the identity and habits and confidence of a model to accomplish this. Awesome. Mindset change. Appreciating the exact moment rather than looking at the negative parts of the situation and not complaining. Beautiful. Awesome. Yay. All right. I'm going to start taking off in our journey to our PowerPoint. And let me just check my notes, make sure I didn't have one last thing before we jump in. Okay. Yeah, I have one last thing. So something that came up came up after our chat yesterday, after our chat last week, and it came up in conversation here since we were talking about flow state and allowing. And it's a funny story, but it often happens that when someone is intoxicated, when someone's drunk and they get into a car accident, because they're drunk and their body just goes, they suffer less injuries than someone that's sober, who then tenses up and freezes their body and locks up, who then ends up having more broken bones, etc. I don't think we got to, did we talk about this last time? No, right. It came up after the chat. So I have been in a car accident, and I remember in the car accident thinking, be relaxed like a drunk. And I didn't have a better word for it at that moment. I was like, okay, be relaxed like a drunk, be relaxed like a drunk. And my friend who was sitting next to me, and we were both wearing our seatbelts, and both of our airbags popped open and everything. We had very, very similar, exact same experience. Yeah, they had broken bones, they had muscle injuries, they needed a cast. So they had a long recovery period, where for me, I had nothing, like nothing. And it was like a reminder, this concept of allowing, of flowing. And after I shared the story with my friends here, one of them mentioned that they had the same exact experience, being in a car accident and thinking to themselves, okay, I want to allow my body to move and flow, and boom. And they also did not have any injuries. So something that came up after our talk that I was like, oh, let's mention that. And it's something that I find, any lesson that I learn, I utilize it in multiple parts of my life. So although the lesson was about mindset, it also works with our body, the concept of flowing. So I wanted to share that with you before we take off. All right, I'm gonna go into sharing screen. Boom, boom, bam. And 1 second. Here we go. Yeah. All good. Gonna minimize this. All right. Mindset course week 3. Here we go. All right. This little staircase came up after a conversation that I also had with our friends here. So one of our magical friends mentioned, a word swap that I'm using is struggling, and I'm using it to learn. And I, wow, it's brilliant. And then I started thinking this process of sometimes it feels like we're struggling, and as we're struggling, we are striving, we are learning, we are growing, we are flowing, we are thriving, we are evolving. So this concept of this staircase, we can look at each step as separate, and we can also look at the whole staircase as one thing. If I am learning to master anything, let's say a headstand, because I lived through this, in the beginning, I'm just gonna fall. So instead of headstands, I'm doing head falls. I'm just falling. And this process, someone could look at it as I'm struggling. And perhaps the first thing I learned is how to fall safely. And I remember my sister teaching me, you gotta tuck and roll. Because if I learn to fall safely, I won't be afraid of falling. If I eliminate the fear of falling, then this struggling, striving goes right into learning and growing. So I can skip a few steps on this staircase by eliminating that fear and learning how to fall. So when I look at this staircase, it instantly activates me to see that it's all one thing. And if I get stuck on the bottom step and I'm thinking, I'm just struggling, I sometimes talk myself out of going to the next step. If I see them all as one, if I see that struggling equals learning, and I don't even use the word struggling anymore, I'm learning. So imagine I'm doing something and it's not working. And instead of me thinking, man, I'm struggling with this, oh, I'm learning. Right now at this moment, this thing that I'm trying to do, I am learning. For me, it instantly puts me in a safe space where I'm not judging myself, which then allows me to thrive. It allows me to learn, to grow, to flow, to thrive, evolve. So I wanted to share that with you. Boom. This slide, it's an interesting concept that I thought about a few years ago and I share with my clients. So this question of which mechanic would you choose to fix your car? So there's two options and there's no real right or wrong answer, but there's different perceptions and mindsets. So A is one that says that they can fix 100% of car problems. I could fix 100% of the engines that come into my shop. The other one says, I can fix 90% of the car problems that come into my shop. So now here's the interesting thing. When we look at this question, you could think, oh, well, maybe the mechanic that's saying I can fix 90% of the cars is an honest mechanic who actually is telling us, hey, look, there are some cars I can't fix. That's one to perceive it. Another, the mechanic that tells me I can fix 100% of the cars that come into my shop. Here's what happens. I bring my car into their shop and they start trying to fix it. Let's say they enter a problem and they're like, man, I don't know what's wrong. This thing didn't work. It didn't fix. This mechanic that states I can fix 100% of the cars that come in is then going to be like, all right, I got to try something else. Okay, that didn't work. I got to try something else. Okay, that didn't work. I got to try something else. The other mindset, oh, you know, I only can fix 90%. Well, what happens if they run into a wall? They might be like, oh, this could be one of those cars that is in that 10% of cars that I cannot fix. So this mindset of, oof, if I run into a problem, if I run into a challenge, if I hit a wall, I'm going to try something else. This is a mindset that I want to choose in my life to keep brainstorming, to keep my creative open, to keep seeking alternative ways to fix the problem. This is the mechanic concept. Now we're going to move on. Speaking of word swaps, here's some word swaps that I wrote down. And the first one we just went through, struggling to learning, can't to how can I, which we did previously, nervous to excited, anxious to eager is so interesting. They feel the same, but one of them we get contracted and the other one we expand. Contraction versus expansion, anxious to eager. Picky to prioritizing quality, afraid to curious, tired to recharging. I hate to I prefer. I can focus on this thing that I hate, or I can focus on this thing that I prefer. Overwhelmed to in demand. And this was similar to one that one of you wrote about being busy. So this concept of, man, I'm overwhelmed, we can also view it as, wow, I'm in such high demand that so many people and so many things they want from me. Problem to game. I do this all the time. When I have something, a challenge, instead of calling it a problem or a challenge, I call it a game. I'm like, all right, how do I solve this game? How do I solve this puzzle? This perception that I have allows me to always be excited when there is something that comes up. And I even tell my friends, I'm like, hey, this is my superpower. If you have a problem, if you have an obstacle, if you have a hurdle, bring it up to me. I am super comfortable talking about it. And it's because I've created this mindset shift of looking at problems, of looking at challenges as games. So for me, it excites me because I'm going to play the game and I got to try to figure out the game. All right. Nosy to interested. Criticism to guidance. And that's a big one for me. I sometimes will have a friend that will give me criticism and the first thing I say to them is thank you. And I don't even need it to be constructive. You know, so some people are like, look, if you're going to criticize me, make it constructive. Me personally, I've already taken the word criticism and I've shifted it to guidance. And I just look at it as, oh, you give me guidance? Thank you. And I also take it with a grain of salt, as they say. Perhaps this person's opinion is this person. And that represents a group of people that think like that person. And it's not something that I necessarily need to adopt into my life. Example, this concept of criticism to guidance. I had a friend that told me, Juan, your Facebook posts are too long. Can you make them shorter? Can you write less words? And I was thinking, you know, my clients, my audience, my friends have long attention spans. So this is the group that I'm attracting. If I make them shorter, I could attract a group that has a short attention span. My goal is to attract people that have a long attention span. So therefore, I can take their criticism and I don't take it personal. And some I will adopt and some I will not because they don't align with my goal. Weird to unique. And I know that's me, totally. Many times people may think I'm weird and I'm just like, hey, I'm unique. Like, definitely, 100%. Gullible to trusting. Oh, and I know we all have a gullible friend. I have a friend and really once I started thinking about it, man, I call her gullible, but gullible is such a negative word. This person is just so trusting. This person is just so pure in their thoughts that they can't see how someone else might be trying to take advantage of them because of their trusting mind, of their trusting mindset. So that gullible to trusting. Greedy to indulging. Sometimes I indulge in ice cream a little too much. So yes. So these are some fun word swaps that I wanted to share with you. And I want to invite you to do some of your own. So think about words that you're using and figure out how to word swap them in a way that activates you. So all these phrases, when I use that second word that I shifted to, it activates me into action. It gets me excited. It gets me going. All right. Going to the next one. Aha. Okay. This concept that we have here. One thing that I've noticed, especially after last week when we were talking about flow state and blissizing and trauma. So the trauma that creates the fear in our lives, I've realized that the more that I can find a way around that, over that, to get beyond that fear, the more magic happens in my life. And I've noticed sometimes the fear is imagined. And here's an example. So this concept of someone drowning and then the lifesaver coming in. So I thought about sometimes when a friend of mine brings up one of their problems or challenges, what happens in my brain is I think I'm outside of the water. So they might be in a pool and they perceive themselves as drowning. So this problem and challenge that they're looking at, they're like drowning in it. It's overwhelming them. They feel overflooded by it. But me, I'm outside of it. I'm outside the pool. And I'm looking in and I'm like, hey, there's a ledge to your left. Grab that. Oh, there's a lifesaver to your right. Grab that. Oh, there's a staircase in front of you. Grab that. So by me being in a calm, cool, collected space where I'm not even touching the water, I'm able to see clearly. And this is a state that I also use when I am the one that's immersed in the water. So although it's much easier to do when I'm not even in the water. And a lot of people say that, oh, I give great advice to my friends, but then I don't follow it. And I resonate with that. I understand that. And when we don't follow our own advice, it's perhaps because we're feeling that immersion of the water and we're allowing the stress to kick in. Another one of our friends here shared the other day that in swimming, if you're captured by the riptide and you fight it, well, that causes more problems. Whereas if you allow the riptide to take you, it will bring you back to shore. It may take a little bit, but it will bring you back. So this concept of allowing and flowing will save you from a riptide as opposed to fighting it, which will exert all your energy, which will wear you out. And if instead you can just float and get to that space of safety. Cool. Boom. All right. This author that I'm quoting here, Dr. Teresa Amabile is a Harvard professor who teaches, studies, and researches creativity and flow state and how it can improve business and everyday life. I'm going to use a few of her quotes coming up. So I wanted to show you her first. And she's written so many books and she's quoted so much. And here is someone at Harvard University, so, you know, high credentials, a professor at Harvard University, and someone that researches and loves to talk about and write about flow state. And I know flow state is from last week, but before we jump into the next thing, want to close that chapter. So what does she say here? People will be most creative when they feel motivated primarily by the interest, enjoyment, satisfaction, and challenge of the work itself. What I think about here is, so imagine the person that's bored at their job and they're like, I hate Mondays, etc. And then on the other end, the person that's like, I love my job. I love Mondays. I love this. So that interest, that enjoyment, that satisfaction, the challenge of the work itself is high. So their motivation is high. Their creativity is high. What does that mean? Well, when creativity is high, what can get your way? Around everything, which is why that's one of the questions that I always ask. How would you rate yourself in your creative problem solving abilities? Because I find whatever we're doing in life, something's going to come up that we need to activate our creativity to help us get around it, over it, through it. All right. This is another one of her quotes. And those are my feet. I'm flying in the air. What you see below are trees. Those are trees below. One day's happiness often predicts the next day's creativity. So this concept, what did I do? This was yesterday. I went paragliding. Why did I go paragliding? Well, to conquer a fear of heights, number one. Number two, to get that joy of flight, to enter that happiness, that bliss, so I can bliss-tize my fear of heights. Also, going with this quote, by me entering that state of bliss, that state of joy, that state of happiness, well, then today I'm going to be more creative. Today I'm going to be able to, boom, meet any challenge. So my Monday feels amazing as a result of this treatment that I do to myself. And, you know, sometimes people call things rewards. I love pre-wards. What's a pre-ward? So I think about something I want to accomplish, and I think, okay, I'm going to do a pre-ward, a reward before doing the thing, which will then excite me even more as I'm doing the thing. So entering this week, this third week of New Earth University, and also of a course that I'm taking here with Orpheus, I'm like, okay, it's the third week. We're at the half-point mark. We're about to begin the second half. I want to get activated. What do? So I enter a state of play. I enter the childlike curiosity. I wanted to fly. I wanted to conquer a fear. Paragliding. Next slide. That's also my foot. And these little bunnies that you see here are wild bunnies. I know, it sounds unbelievable. Like, what? Wild bunnies? Yes, these are wild bunnies. And when I got to this house, this is the house of the paragliding coach. He has wild bunnies that love to eat his grass. So they come to eat his grass. And he has a little dog bowl where there's water for them to drink. So these wild bunnies come to eat his grass. And I saw them and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go play with them. And I'm like, you know, the kid again, the child comes out and I'm going to go play with the bunnies. As I go towards the bunnies, he's like, yeah, just don't get attached to the concept of playing with them because they're going to run away from you. They're not going to let you get close to them. The moment you get close, they're going to jump away. So I was like, in my brain, I was like, yeah, watch me. So I already knew I would get to this point of this connection, of this contact with me and the bunnies. How did I know that? Because I'm that mechanic. The mechanic that sees, oh, I can fix 100% of the cars. So I looked at the bunnies and I thought, how can I? Instead of I can't. I was like, how can I connect with these bunnies? And I tried many things. So the first thing I did was try to walk up to them. That didn't work. And maybe I did that for half an hour. I was like, that definitely is not working. So then I tried to grab some grass and like not crawl, but squat so that I wouldn't look so scary standing tall. And I squatted and tried to squat towards them. That didn't work. And I think it was close to an hour in when I was like, I need to try something different. What's my creative solutions? And I'm like, oh, why don't I become one with my environment? I need to be a bunny. I need to just sit on the floor and allow this grass to be my playground. If I want to play with the bunnies, they need to see me that I am just like them. So I'm sitting down on the grass and I'm crawling on the grass and I'm playing with the grass. And all of a sudden, in less than 2 minutes, after an hour of chasing the bunnies, and what happened when I chased them, they ran away. After an hour chasing the bunnies, 2 minutes of me sitting, allowing, now the bunnies came to me. At one point I had 6 bunnies surrounding me. So the bunnies came, they were smelling my foot, they were looking at me, they were playing, they were running all around me, and I was like a kid in a candy store, smiling, joy, filled with happiness. And here's the quote: most people aren't anywhere near realizing their creative potential, in part because they're laboring in environments that impede intrinsic motivation. So intrinsic being your own internal motivation, impedes meaning stopping. So because the environments that we constantly put ourselves in stop us from creating our own fuel, our own motivation, then we don't reach our creative potential. So what I do is I often find a way to surround myself in an environment that activates my creative potential. In this case, the bunnies. And the bunnies was right after paragliding. So it was a day of me activating my creative potential, of me taking the child inside of me out for a day of play. All right, next. And this is also Dr. Teresa Amaville. The benefits of being in flow state cannot be overstated. Oh, there's a D missing there. According to research done by Harvard professor Dr. Teresa Amaville, people who experience flow reported higher levels of creativity, productivity, and happiness up to 3 days after being in deep flow state. So sometimes my friends are like, yeah, Juan, but I can't go paragliding on Monday and I'm working and I'm busy and this and that. And I totally understand that. So in this case, we can read that the effects can last up to 3 days. So something super important for me is to take some time out. So my weeks here, Monday through Friday, are pretty intense. We have classes all day. We have multiple sessions every day. Monday through Friday, we're busy. Like, it's busy. Like, seriously. I know it looks like, oh, yeah, you're just in nature. But I'm taking courses with Orpheus, and we are learning and growing every day. And I notice when I have a day in the weekend, I go into my childlike state, and I go into that. Now, sometimes I may have a moment in the middle of the day, and what do? I go look at nature. So sometimes I have a small little window, and I try to find a way to tune into nature. Sometimes I have a day window or a 2-day window on the weekend, and I use that as well. And I know that by doing this, it will refuel me, it will recharge me, it will activate me for multiple days. So knowing this, I prioritize that. So sometimes I'll have a friend that tells me, Juan, I have these goals and I'm working every day at them and my schedule is full. I have time for nothing else. And I share with them, yeah. And if you put some time for you, some me time, that you refuel yourself, you're actually going to reach those goals quicker. So sometimes we forget that by refueling ourselves, we're going to be more effective. We're going to be able to accomplish the goals much quicker. All right. Oh, flow games. Okay. Remember I told you all about my painting experiment? This was my first painting I ever painted. And it was a day that I was doing a tour of a resort retreat facility. and the people that live in that community were having an art class, and I missed the beginning. I just entered in the middle, and the art teacher was like, yeah, if you want to paint, I'll give you some stuff. Boom, boom, boom. I sat down, and that was my little masterpiece of the day that the teacher thought I'd been training in art for a decade or so. Any case, what did I do there? I just played like a child. And at moments, I just took the brush and I just splashed paint on my canvas, on my paper. I was just playing. And these flow games that I want to invite you to do is, again, to fill your tank. So today's topic is about goals and programming your mind to accomplish your goals. This concept of flow games for me is super important to give me the fuel to then focus on accomplishing the goals. So I'm gonna give you 3 flow games that you could play on your own time. So one of them is paint. And now, after doing this that time, I'm like, wow, painting is so therapeutic. It's so much fun. And super important is to not enter judgment. Because for someone else, they'd be like, painting is so stressful because I don't know how to paint and I stink at it and I can't make it look like I want. So that judgment will take us out of flow state. So how do we enter flow state? Curiosity, happiness, joy, indulgence. Painting, enter a state of, I'm just gonna play with the paint, play with the canvas, play with the brush, enter in that childlike curiosity and just play. Another one you could do is writing poetry. So you're gonna enter a state and say, okay, doesn't matter how it comes out, I'm just gonna play, write some poetry. Little by little, you'll start seeing, wow, it's coming out. And people often get surprised by how good they are at playing. It's because we all have a child inside that wants to play. So if we nourish the child, it starts affecting our adult self as well. All right, so playing poetry, musical instruments. I have never taken a class with a musical instrument, yet I play like a child. If you give me a guitar, I'll just play like a child. And people are like, what? That sounds crazy. Like, what? How do you play like a child? And I'm like, well, I don't pay attention to how it's supposed to be played. I just enter the state of creativity and curiosity where I just mess around. And however it comes out, I have no judgment. And oftentimes people are like, how long you been playing guitar? And I'm like, 0. I just play like a child. See, and for me, that's a big difference. Playing an instrument and playing like a child with an instrument. For flow state, I start entering that state of playing like a child. All right, that's flow games. So instrument, poetry, paint, and basically it could be anything. It could be anything that activates you, anything that inspires you, and that you're gonna let go of judgment and just go in and just play like a child. Flow games. All right. Ooh, I love this. Okay, so this talks about the 4-minute mile. Okay, so the 4-minute mile, so it's a race that you're going for a mile, and the 4-minute mile was considered by experts as impossible. So I'll just read this little thing for you. According to legend, experts said for years that the human body was simply not capable of running a 4-minute mile. It wasn't just dangerous, it was impossible. So this was a concept that was believed to be true. Further, legend holds that people had tried for over 1,000 years. And I don't know about 1,000 years, but I read that the first 1-mile run was in the 1500s in England. So definitely for over 500 years, nobody had ran a mile that had been documented in under 4 minutes. All right, so let's go back to there. Over 1,000 years to break the barrier, even tying bulls behind them to increase the incentive to do the impossible. In the 1940s, the mile record was pushed to 4:01. So in the 1940s, this was the closest anybody had gotten to the 4 minutes, to 4:01, where it stood for 9 years as runners struggled with the idea that just maybe the experts had it right. Perhaps the human body had reached its limits and we couldn't break this 4 minute. The breakthrough! On May 6, 1954, Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute barrier. running the distance in 3 minutes, 59 seconds, zero point 0.4 milliseconds. As part of his training, he relentlessly visualized the achievement in order to create a sense of certainty in his mind and body. All right, so now here's what happens next, which is pretty magical. After Roger breaks the 4-minute mile record that was impossible, that same year, other people broke the record. So here's what happened. Society believed, oh, this thing's impossible. Somebody showed, oh no, it's possible. Now other people started believing it was possible because they saw it. And now other people broke the record. So this concept for me allows me to activate myself to do things when people tell me, oh, you're not going to be able to do that. Oh, you're not going to be able to play with the bunnies. They're going to run away. I'm like, well, you don't know. You don't know me. You don't know what I'm capable of. So this concept of when people tell us something is impossible, that many of us, including myself, we have a contraction. We then may be discouraged, and then maybe we give it up and we don't try it. This 4-minute mile is a reminder that we don't know what is impossible. And sometimes even the medical experts will say the human body cannot do this. And then somebody says, oh, look, I just did it. Watch me, as they say. Watch me. So someone does it. And now everybody's like, oh, wait, it's possible. So now other people are able to do it. How is it that after the record was broken, other people now started popping up, including high school athletes? So if you look this up on Google, you'll start seeing that after Roger Bannister broke it, not only were other adults breaking it, but high school teenagers started breaking the record. Like, incredible. So this lesson for me is not to listen to the skeptics, not to listen to the people that think things are impossible whenever it comes to whatever you're pursuing. So whether it's business or a personal goal, boom. If I want it and I'm focused on it, I'm not going to listen to the naysayers. They don't know what I'm capable of. Now, when someone says, oh, I can't do that. Yeah, okay, that's what they believe. So there's a quote that says, whether you think you can or can't, you're right. So I don't adopt other people's self-limiting beliefs. Boom, 4-minute mile. Yeah, I invite you to look that up because there's so much more to this story that, you could talk about it for an hour. Boom. Okay, we are gonna enter an exercise now. So I'm gonna take you out of this full screen. Boom, boom. I'm gonna look at you. Bam, bam. Stop sharing screen. Boom, boom. Okay. All right, here's what I want to do. This next part is how to program the mind into the goal achievement. So what I want to invite you to do is to think about something that you want to achieve. And this could be the I Am Possible project. This could be something that you've had for a long time, or it could be something that just came up when the slides were going through, something that came into your mind. So I want you to think about one thing that you're like, man, I really want to do this. And maybe you felt that there was an obstacle. Maybe you felt that there was a limit. Maybe you had self-doubt. Maybe you thought, I don't know how to do it. I can't do it. Yeah, so especially if you have had a self-limiting belief about it, it's going to be really helpful for this exercise. All right, so think about one thing, and as small as you could phrase it, I invite you to put it in the chat if you'd like to play the game. And if you like to just watch the game, you could do that as well. If you like to participate, boom, put it in the chat. Oh, yes, and thank you for writing. I have been scheduling playtime into my schedule, super important. I love the sound of playtime, makes me feel all giddy and kid-like. Yes, I'm gonna have recess outside after this class. Yeah. And about the Impossible Project, I wrote so much about it, the whole plan, but got diverted with all the other weekly homework. So excited to go back to planning. Yes. All right. We got getting an acting agent. Someone else's limiting beliefs I'm taking on. Got it. So thinking that getting an acting agent was not possible because someone else is telling you how difficult it is and whatnot. All right, cool, perfect. I'm gonna start with that one. And anybody else that adds, I'm gonna continue playing the game. I'm gonna start with that one. Okay, so, so I'm gonna put myself, I'm gonna become you for a second. I am you, boom. All right, so one thing that I might do, and I think Christina mentioned this the other day, something about the social media videos where you're playing a role and you're acting. So one thing that I've done with my social media and how to increase my following and therefore exposure was to play with videos. And for example, recently I've been doing videos of me tasting a fruit in Costa Rica. And all of a sudden, boom, 500 views, which is not crazy a lot, but it's more than I was having a month ago on a video of my daily. So now I started doing a daily video, and it's a 1-minute video. And why did I do that? I wanted to make a goal that I can easily keep and be consistent on. So I made a 1-minute video, and it's usually about me tasting a new fruit or hinky, etc. So translated to you, boom. And it's partially an idea that Christina had, so I'm borrowing it from Christina. So imagine you're doing a 1-minute daily video of you taking on a role and acting that out. So it does multiple things. One, doing is practice. So by you doing it, you're practicing your craft. Two, posting it is exposure. So sometimes when I post something, we never know how far this exposure goes, the circles that happen all over the place. How many actors, actresses, singers, models were discovered because someone shared a video on social media? Like this already happens all the time. So not only it being practice, but also being exposure. All right. Number 3, by creating this goal, and in this case, 1-minute video a day, you're also practicing something else, which is goal achievement. So you're saying to yourself, okay, here's a task that I'm going to take on. Here's something that I'm going to do. And here's my commitment. So let's say 1-minute video a day for 30 days. So this also gets you to practice being consistent. It also gets you to practice achieving a goal. And in this case, a 1-minute video goal. It gets you in practice of following your word, following your commitment. All right, so that would be one example. Maybe a second example is, and I'm not from California or from the acting world, but I imagine that there are Facebook groups and all sorts of social media places where people interact, where people talk. So what I may do also is enter some of those places to get some tips from people that are doing it right, that are doing it well. So what does that mean? Sometimes when I hear the naysayers, I'm like, well, the naysayers saying no because they can't. I want to hear from the yes people. Oh, you were able to get an agent. How? I want to know. Like, what were the ways? So sometimes we are so quick to listen to the critic that hasn't done anything. And sometimes we are not listening to the people that have done something. So I'm like, okay, what are the gurus doing? What did the masters do? And perhaps there's an online course. I'm sure there's billions of them. Online course to get your acting to the next level. Maybe there's an online course specifically on how to get an agent. So there's so many resources. And in this case, I'm using online because obviously it's at our fingertips, but I'm sure that there's physical ones that you can also go to. So that's a couple of tips on that. Getting an acting agent, someone else's living and belief, I'm taking on. Cindy, booking a series regular, you need to have lots of credits. Got it, cool. So someone's limiting belief that to be booked in a series as a regular, you need to have lots of credits. And credits like credentials, like things that you've done in the past, I'm assuming. So, and a series like also an acting job, I'm guessing. Boom. All right, so for me, the same concept is at play in this limiting belief. number one, we know that that sentence is not true because there are people who have booked a series and become a regular who didn't have lots of credentials, because there's always new actors and new actresses who make it. Not only series, how about blockbuster movies? We've all seen a blockbuster movie that had an actor or actress that wasn't well known. It actually has a name. I'm not familiar with the name of that term, but it's when a new actor or an actress makes it in a big movie, but they don't have the credentials and the big name and the et cetera. So, oh, and I like that. Somebody else added a couple of things. I'll read that in a second. Yes, so the first thing that I start doing is to realize that the limiting belief comes from that person's fear, from that person's lack of confidence on their own, from that person's limiting beliefs. And I start seeing through it by seeing that's not real. Like, example, when I was told about the bunnies not coming up to me, I've been around wild animals that have come up to me in the past. I'm like, wild animals can be curious, just like we are curious about them. So in regard to booking a regular series, I would do the same recommendation that I'm saying to Leanne, which would be entering a practice that allows you to do the thing that you love, the thing that you want to do, and making it a daily ritual practice. Boom. So now you're doing this and it's happening. And every time you do it, you're getting better at it. A. B, pursuing what are expert guru masters that have done the thing that you want to do. Book in a regular series. What did they do before? What were the steps that happened right before? So by looking for this guidance, we can get new ideas and use old ideas. I'm always looking at new ways to do it, and I'm always pursuing inspiration from others. I'm always looking for masters, gurus, guides. Cool. All right. I want to be someone well known within the plant medicine psychedelic community and be able to use my influence in a really positive way through writing, sharing my story, videos, etc., and help inspire people to learn more about these medicines and learn more about themselves. Your lives for the better. Cool. And I think you wrote some, but I guess I have the thought, why me? Got it. Or the thought, I'm not far enough on my own journey yet. Got it. Okay, cool. It's interesting because I coached somebody on that recently. This was like a month and a half ago. And I can like reproduce that concept real quick since it's fresh in my mind. Okay, so what we did was we created a board. And this will work for all the things that are coming up. This is one way to do it. We created a board, and because she lives here in Costa Rica and she's very in touch with nature, I use the metaphor of a forest. And I was like, look, we're gonna create your forest. And I was like, we need 5 trees to be in our forest. And I was like, what are the 5 things that you are most passionate about, this thing that you're pursuing? So in this concept of becoming someone well-known in the plant medicine psychedelic community, and I asked her, give me the 5 things. And so one of them was education. So I want to teach others, I want to spread knowledge, etc. So that was one of the trees, was education. So then I told her, okay, let's take this tree, and this tree has multiple branches. For this exercise, let's make 3 branches. What are 3 ways that you're gonna spread your education? So one of them was social media. I was like, okay, cool. Second one was in person. All right, third one was in a retreat. I was like, great. So we have the tree of education in her plant medicine forest. We have the 3 branches: social media, in person, retreat. So then I said, all right, let's go to one of these branches and let's look at one of the leaves of this branch. All right, so let's say social media. So maybe the social media has 3 leaves: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I'm like, cool. So now we got 3 leaves in that branch. All right, now let's look at the fruit. And what is the fruit? So if we think the seed that grew that tree was education, what is the fruit that's going to come out of it? Like, what is the end goal of this tree? What is the purpose of this tree? What is it going to give the people? So then she's answering the question and she's like, well, I want them to be able to deal with life's hardships. I want them to be able to find their clarity. I want them to be able to overcome any obstacles, utilizing what was her forest about, plant medicine. So utilizing plant medicine and the teachings from it to be able to get clarity, overcome their obstacles, etc. So now we finish this one branch and its fruit. So then what I shared with her was like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to finish the whole forest. So you're going to have your 5 trees, and each one of these trees has the 3 branches and the 3 leaves and the fruit. And then once we were done with that, it was super easy for her to see her next steps, because now she has the goal of each one of the things that she's passionate about. She sees the goal, she's seeing the seed that grows into the fruit, and the different ways that she can get there, because each one of those branches, each one of those leaves, they're all connected. One of her obstacles was, I don't know what to do first. So in this age of social media, and being that I use it a lot, what I told her is, man, all of your branches, all of your trees, all of your leaves are all talks that you can do on social media. So if one of the things that you want to do is educate people, you can do a 1-minute talk on this leaf. So little by little, she started seeing, wow. Before that, she thought, I have nothing to say. I don't know what to do next. I have nothing to say. So then what we did a play. I called it play, right? But it was practice. So we played the game, and I was like, okay, I'm going to turn on the camera, and I want you to talk about this thing. And I pointed at one of the things on her tree. She starts talking about it, and I told her to do 1 minute. She went on for like 10 minutes, and I didn't want to stop her because she was on a roll. And I was like, okay, after she finished, boom, we stopped it. And I was like, okay, look, that was amazing. You did 10 minutes. And I want to show you what happened. During your talk, you jump from this tree to that tree to that tree. You jump from this branch to that branch to that branch. You jump from this leaf to this leaf to that leaf. And I'm like, it's amazing. And for your viewer, it might be too much all at once. So maybe for a 1-minute talk, you're going to talk about one little leaf, and the fruit from that leaf is our goal. So you pick your tree, you pick your branch, you pick your leaf, boom, and focus on that fruit. On another talk, you're going to talk about another one. And maybe after 1-minute talks that you do them for a month, you graduate to 5-minute talks. Now you could stick to 1 branch and 3 leaves. Oh, you're going to do a 30-minute talk? Now you could do 3 branches in 1 tree. Oh, you're doing an hour talk? You could talk about the whole tree. Boom. So now, here's what happens next. She's like, Juan, I did the homework, and I have a whole year's worth of talks. So little by little, because she saw the clarity of what was her goal, and she created her forest and divided her trees, and then set out the branches and the leaves and the fruit, it was easy. And for her, the metaphor was super easy because she loves nature. Boom. So I invite you to use that one. And basically, at the end of the day, you create it so that it makes the most sense to you. You create it so that you're inspired by it. You create it in a way that when you read it, you're like, yes, I want this. I'm going to do that. Boom. And if you remember from our first session, write it down, break it down, get down. So if you look at this poster, that's one way to metaphorically do the thing. This forest that she built was a way for her to write it down. Here's my forest of plant medicine. And breaking it down, here are my trees, here are my branches, here are my leaves. And getting down, oh, don't forget what the fruit is, because that's the goal. So to get down to business, to make sure that this fruit flourishes, I have to water the trees. I have to tend to the garden. I have to make sure that they're getting their sunlight. So little by little, you start seeing all the steps start popping out to you. Boom. I'm going to read the next one. Did I miss something? Sorry, my internet went out. You have to write my limiting beliefs. You could write your limiting beliefs, and or you could write something that you want to get that you feel that there's an obstacle in. The leaves represented. Okay, so the 5 trees in that example were 5 aspects that she wanted to focus on in regard to plant medicine. And then in each tree, there was a different branch. In the main tree that we were talking about, education was that tree. So then I asked her, what are different ways that you want to utilize to educate? And one of them was social media. So the social media was one branch. And then I asked her for 3 leaves off of that branch, which for example was Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. 3 examples. Cool. I bought a giant notebook the other day, the size of a poster board. Yes. Yes. I find a lot of people that I meet that are successful at goal achievement, they have these poster boards and they do this visual thing. Some of them use sticky notes too on their walls and in their bathroom. I've been to someone's bathroom that had like 100 sticky walls, and because they're writing the things that they're thinking about and they want to see them on the daily. So this visualization is totally a way to elevate our activation. And as we read in the previous slide, the person that broke the 4-minute mile was visualizing that this was something that they could do, that this was something that was possible, that this was something that they were gonna do, entering this confidence of, I'm gonna do this thing. Great. Yes. Yeah. And so if somebody else writes another example, I'll do another one. In the meantime, I'll give you one of mine. So for example, in my forest, I'll give you one quick example. 3 of my trees are life, nature, dance. So life for me, in the way that I'm using it in this forest, is mindset and neuroscience and neurolinguistic programming and mindfulness and emotional intelligence and empathy and all the things in my brain that then, as I set them, I create the life I want. So that's my life tree. My other tree, nature, is animals. So the branches would be animals and trees and jungle and river and waterfall. So I have a whole bunch of branches there. And when I look at what is the fruit of my life tree, all right, my life tree fruit is me creating the mindset that allows me to fulfill my goals. What is the fruit of my nature tree? Me giving myself playtime in nature that inspires me, that activates me, that fuels me to be able to, boom, fulfill my goals. Dance. All right, so in the dance tree, I have multiple branches and it's different dances that I do and multiple leaves, different aspects of each dance. And what is the fruit? Dance for me is a way for me to tap into creativity, a way for me to be creative in real time as I'm dancing, improvising, and coming up with things from the top of my head that then allows me to practice this concept of being creative. Being creative, which I then use in all aspects of my life. So dance for me is a tool that shows me how I can tap into my creativity in other aspects of my life. So when I think about my forest, those 3 trees and their branches and their leaves and their fruits, I then think, okay, how are they separate? How are they connected? And how do I bring them all into one event? Example, I started doing retreats. My retreats theme was dance, nature, life. So this is the one way that I unified them, because then it made my day every day. I wake up and I'm going to do one of the 3 things that are in my forest. I'm excited about it. I also notice how they're different, and that allows me to focus when I'm focusing on one. Example, I did a video on the rabbits the other day, on the bunnies. So I'll post this video on my social media, and it's me playing with the bunnies. And I understand that people that love animals are going to tune into the video, but somebody else might skip it. The people that maybe love the fruits, they're like, I like to see Juan tasting the fruits and telling us what they taste like. So that person, they see me post the fruit video, boom, they're tapping in. Then there's a person that clicks on my dance videos. So these are 3 different markets, 3 different mentalities, 2 different mindsets that I funnel in to my adventures, that I funnel in into my goals, that I funnel into the things that I do. All right. I see. I would love to incorporate money and mindset. My limiting beliefs is 100K a year, but not working so hard. Would the trees be the ways of making income? Cool. So money and mindset, incorporate 100K a year. Cool. And I love this concept of 100K. And I'm so glad someone brought up money, because it's something I would love to share with you all. So I'll give you an example. In this flow state and this concept that we keep talking about minimum effort and maximum results. So this 100K is a goal that many of us have often. You know, like it might be the first goal that people get as entrepreneurs. It's like, I want to break the 100K, you know, the 6-figure income. So that is super, super common. So I'll share with you a little bit about mine. So when I had this goal the first time in my life of breaking the 100K in a year, at that time, my average client was spending $500. So if we do the math, to get 100K, $500, anybody got a calculator real quick? Okay, 500 times 2 will be 100. I need 100 of those. So I think is that right? 200. Thank you for the math. Good job. So at that time, I needed 200 clients because the average investment each client had was $500. So that's what we call, and I don't know if you know, but I studied business management. That was my undergrad. So that's what we call a quick nickel. So a quick nickel is the price is lower and therefore you get more sales. Okay. A slow dime is what I did. What did I do? I said, okay, I need 200 clients to meet my goal in 1 year, or I'm going to get my average client to invest $5,000. Now I need 20 clients. So I went from a focus of getting 200 clients to 20. So getting the 20 clients in 1 year, for me, in what I was doing at that moment, seemed like I could do this. Getting the 200 for me was like, it's a lot of work right now. So I shifted that by saying, okay, instead of the quick nickel, I'm going to do the slow dime. And here's what I did. I also had a branch doing the quick nickel. What does that mean? So besides focusing on the slow dime, the clients that were investing 5K that I only needed 20 to meet my goal, I also had a branch that was doing the lower price thing so that I also had income that was coming in. Got it? So now here's what happens next. That year, I got 22 5K clients, which means it was 110K that I made. Here's the interesting thing. After doing that, and I keep studying the things I'm studying, I was like, wow, I aimed for 100K. So once I got to 100K, I slowed down and then I made 110. I probably would have surpassed that by so much more had I kept with the energy that I started. So sometimes when we set a ceiling, it can slow us down as we're getting close to it. So it's something that I read in another book was about the sprint. What is the sprint? So think about race, since we were talking about that earlier. So sometimes when we're getting close to the finish line, that's when the athlete gives it their all. So this business author was talking about, how about if you enter sprint time multiple times in your project? That you're like, I'm gonna give it my all, boom. I'm gonna give it my all, boom. Instead of waiting for the last week of the year to try to give it your all. Like, what if you scheduled sprints throughout your year? Maybe like the last week of every month was a sprint for that month, as an example. So I started realizing that by doing that, I can now do more. And by having the ceiling of, oh, I'm going to make 100K this year, I also slowed myself down that year. I feel like I would have done much higher if I would have aimed higher. Cool. All right. So that was one example of playing with money and the fast nickel and the slow dime, and working smarter, not harder, and visualization. Boom, 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 boom. I'm going to read over here. Yep, I have a limiting belief around money too. It mainly goes along the lines of I feel bad to ask people for money when I'm helping them with information that I have learned. Giving workshops, emotional intelligence, coaching, I feel bad to ask for money for something that everyone should have for free. Be guided to be connected to themselves. Awesome. So here is 2 things on that. One, and I have the same exact, let's call it game that goes on in my head, and then I figure out a way around it. So this game, and the way that I figure out around it, is I say to myself, I want to give something for free because it feels really good. And I give little small free things, and it's just like my donation to the universe. I'm super comfortable with that. And I have learned that in coaching specifically, and since your question is about teaching people and coaching them, well, I have learned in coaching that someone's investment into the thing that they are being coached on makes a difference in how serious they take it, how much they put into it, and the results that they get. And I've tested this theory. So I'll share with you the test. So I had a client, and this client was dealing with some things and limiting beliefs and et cetera, et cetera. And this was in romance. So I once was working with a dating coach. So this dating coach read one of my articles. This is, again, one of those things that happen. I posted a Facebook article on dating, and it was how to find your soulmate in 5 easy steps. How to find your soulmate in 5 easy steps. Someone shared it. All of a sudden, this dating coach, which was bi-coastal, New York, LA, living in both and having clients in both coasts, who is also a licensed psychologist, read my post. And she was like, oh, Juan, I really enjoyed your post. I want you to teach a workshop to my people on this. Boom. Just because I shared a post on Facebook, it got into the desk of this high price dating coach who then booked me to teach a workshop to her clients. Awesome. Any case, so here's what happened. I had a client from her that was paying premium per hour, high rates, to get this coaching. And then I had a friend, a personal friend, that was going through the same exact thing. And I said to myself, okay, here's a good experiment for me to do. And I took and I copied and pasted the same exact coaching. Here's the person that was paying high money for it. Here's the person that was just my friend that I gave it to them for free. Here's what happened. This one finds their soulmate, 6 months, gets married, is super happy. And it's like, Juan, I don't know how that worked. I followed the formula. It worked magically, blah, blah, blah. Amazing. This one, no, nothing happened. And here's one reason why nothing happened in my perception of what I learned from that. Sometimes when we get something for free, we don't put value in it because many times we equate cost and value to be the same. You know, so I was giving my friend information that someone else was spending $300 for 1 hour of it. And here, all of a sudden, this person had it for free. The person that spent $300 an hour for that information was like, man, I'm not going to let my money go to waste. I'm going to follow this formula. I'm going to do this formula. I'm going to do it. Boom. They put it to work right away. My friend didn't put it to work. And I know because they're my friends. So they would talk to me and, you know, a few months would go by and they were still stuck in the same cycle of the same type of relationship, dating a narcissist and blah, 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 boom. In a toxic relationship, parasitic, where the person was just taking and they were just giving, and they were stuck in that cycle. Where the other person, remember what I said in the beginning, they both had the same obstacle, the same challenge. They were both living the same experience. Similar experience, because obviously they're different people. They were both dealing with the same challenge. Dating narcissists in a cycle, blah, blah, blah. And they were both really nice, selfless people who were by that same thing attracting parasites. Oh, I'm a giver. So then the parasites were like, yeah, I'm a taker. We're perfect together. So in that coaching, I coached them how to repel the parasite and how to attract other givers like themselves, other people that were selfless like themselves. Any case, one of them took it, one of them didn't. Point of the story is, what we sometimes don't realize is that by people making an investment on themselves, that instantly raises their value of their worth. And then it activates them to work towards that goal because they see it as an investment that, oh, I don't want my investment to go to waste. There's this quote about appreciation, and it's like, as we appreciate something, it appreciates in value. So think about appreciation as I enjoy this, I like this, and appreciation as in economics, it's rise in value. So as we appreciate it, it rises in value. This concept for me in my coaching navigation of my coaching life was to realize that, when people are investing in my coaching, they appreciate it, it appreciates, and they then appreciate themselves. They appreciate their self-worth. They're working harder. They're putting it to good use. They're seeing it as an investment, and they achieve their goals so much quicker. Boom. All right. Money transmission on Wednesday. Yes. Yeah, so Christina's mentioning she has a money transmission on Wednesday. Boom, boom. Yes. All right. If somebody else wants to add one more, I got time for one last one. While you're doing that, something else I wanted to share. Aha. Okay. This was on, it was called Brain Games. Might be a different name, but I think it was Brain Games. So I was in Australia and I was watching a TV show because, of course, I love the brain. I was watching a TV show on Brain Games. And the host goes to a place that they measure your brain and different things that are going on in your brain while you're doing things. And here's the thing that they were doing. He was running in this machine and they were calculating how fast he was going, what distance he was going, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what was happening in the brain, boom, boom, bam. So they tell him, okay, we want you to run as fast as you can, use all of your energy. And he goes, he does the thing. He runs, he was told, run as fast as you can, do the best that you can for this amount of time. Boom. They recorded that. The next day, he comes in and they have set up the computer with another computer next to it. And in the next computer, there is a video of him running the same thing that he ran the day before. And that one was blue and this one was red. So they said, okay, all you got to do is beat yourself from yesterday. Even if you just beat yourself by a little bit. Just beat yourself by a little bit. So we know we asked you yesterday to give it your all. So that was your all. So you're like, how can I beat my all? I gave it my all yesterday. So we just want you to beat yesterday by this much. All right. So then he's like, okay, I'm going to beat my yesterday. Boom, boom. So he gives it his all again. After he beats himself, he then is told, oh, you know, the computer projection of your yesterday, we had increased it by 10%. So when he was told to do his best the first day, and we got the results, the second day, yesterday's results were increased by 10%, and he was able to beat that. What is this concept? This is back to the impossible. So he was able to increase his productivity by over 10% to beat what he thought was his yesterday. But because they sped it up by 10%, it means that he did over 10% better. What does that mean? Many times we think we're doing our best, we're giving it our all, but we don't realize, wow, we are actually working at a much lower scale that we can go much higher. And if you look at some of the slides from earlier, you'll see, for example, in creativity, how we are not utilizing our full creative effort. And if we fill up our gas tank more often, we can access some more of that. Cool. All right, I didn't see any additional ones, so we're gonna be ending in a minute. All right, any questions from anybody before we close out? You guys were amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, and by the way, several of you wrote to me I'm putting together that blistizing. I got several of you that sent me stuff. So processing, and I'll be sending you that through the WhatsApp with a link so you could go to it.
Do I still have time to send you mine?
Yeah, send it to me today though, please.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, see you all soon. Had a great time.